Thank you to those that are already joining. We'll get started in 1 or 2 minutes' time. Thank you to those that have just joined. We're just going to give it 1 or 2 more minutes for a few more people to join, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think we'll get started. So welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on Helix GPT, an expert of your system. And our two presenters today are Madhav Mehar, our Principal Product Manager, and Des Sanders, our Senior Principal Solutions Engineer. They'll go through some slides, a demo, and we will also have some time at the end for live Q&A. But what we will ask during the session, if you do have any questions, although you will be muted so we can get through the presentation, please use the Q&A section of Zoom, which you will find at the bottom, and we will answer those questions. And any that are still left at the end, we will take them to the live Q&A. So without further ado, let me hand over to Madhav for his introduction.
Thank you, Samantha, for setting this up. Thank you, everybody, for joining. My name is Madhav. I'm based in Florida, and I lead the product management for Helix GPT for BMC. So let's dive into this webinar. Some of the information, of course, is forward-looking, so we always have a legal notice to say, keep it with that grain of salt. Now, I want to share an overall vision of where we are going with service ops and autonomous ops, right? As BMC customers and partners, right, you realize we have a lot of the data in your Helix environment that relates to how your different systems are set up in your topology. My apologies. What events are occurring, what metrics we are gathering, right? The logs, the incidents, the tickets, knowledge articles. All this information is already inside the Helix environment. And we have been running the classical, now the old school predictive, analyze, insight kind of algorithms, the old AI ML, for a lot of these functions that you're seeing on the screen. So this is available today in your Helix Cloud. Now, what we want to do with generative AI, right, is take it to the next level. So now that prompting and the context comes in, and we'll touch upon the prompt and the context more, right? So generative AI can now save even more time for the administrators, for the end users, for the executives looking for reports, right? So you can have conversational experiences across all the applications. You can get summaries and recommendations, right, across many of these applications. And this is where the productivity of an administrator or an end user will improve rapidly. And there are some cases, some use cases that are live already, generally available. That are some that are on the roadmap, and we'll touch upon them briefly, right? The best part of this design is this is all inside your BMC Helix environment, right? So you're used to this multi-tenanted, SaaS on-prem, you have that choice. And now we are adding that domain-specific large language model at the bottom right of that rectangle. That is what is Helix GPT, which is bringing you this great new feature, right? So what are what do we mean by this expert of your systems, right? So number one, we ingest all the data, right? That's the data in your text. Number two, we apply a prompt engineering, right? So a chain of thought is applied to that. Number three, we engage with your out of the box prompts, right? So we will supply those out of the box prompts so that you get going, and then you tune them. And I'll explain how you will be able to tune those prompts to suit your needs, right? And that will work across all the different apps. So you will have the ability to tune an application prompt for a digital workplace search versus a live chat summarization versus something else, right? And all of this will deliver automated responses. So as you can see from 1 to 4, we are ingesting your data, your conversations, your incidents. We are applying prompts that are tuned for your enterprise, right? With your rules. And so gradually, this system is now becoming an expert of your systems, right? And so now it can create new knowledge articles for you, right? So if there is a cluster of incidents emerging, I keep falling back to this example. So Teams users are unable to send messages, and people are sending messages to the help desk team. And a resolution is emerging that, well, you need to sign in and out once while on the VPN to fix the login issue, right? And that, as Des will show you shortly, right? Those kind of incident summaries and other things are presented to administrators and agents in a natural language first. And the second step will be, if it's frequent enough, let's make it into a knowledge article, right? The second step will be make an action workflow out of it, right? Generate a workflow to take an action, to remediate what the next step should be. If you need to bounce a server or request somebody to add more memory, right? Or take any other action. So that's the expert of our systems vision. And these use cases will flow across multiple different categories, right? So the first category will be analyzing content and recognizing the groupings and clusters, which is in our proactive problem management in ITSM, but also in analyzing the user's message and replying to them, right? The second thing is in aggregating, right? Um, the third will be in creating content. Now, honestly, creating content is where all of us want to tread carefully because of the hallucinations and the chances of errors. So you want to make sure we get the prompts and the guardrails working on the analyze and aggregate first, right? And then in a few more months' time, we can start creating the content and handing it over to a human being for review, right? So the data science work for this creating content is promising, but it's just a little later down the road so that you will have more control on it, right? And then the fourth item is proposing actions. So I'm a IT help desk agent or an administrator, and I have a cluster of things coming at me. What should I do next, right? So which ticket should I look at? What are my priority issues? Are there any VIP issues, any high severity issues? Or even for those issues, once I pick an issue to look at, what should be the action I take on this, right? Maybe this issue, I should reach out to Des because he's an expert on it, right? So maybe that's a recommendation I can get from the system. So all of this is on our roadmap, right? So what is generally available, you'll be asking, right? So the first thing that's generally available today is on our AI ops piece. And I have a slide here, but I'm just talk through it briefly and then hand over to Des, where you see that red box in the middle of that screenshot. That's a situation summary, right? Because traditional monitoring is very noisy, there are a lot of events coming to the administrators. What do they look at? How do they read that verbose log and then make sense of it, right? So here is where a large language model excels to extract that verbose log into a human readable summary. So Des, maybe if you can share your screen and show us a live console of that. And I'll stop my share here. Des, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? There we go. Perfect. Okay, so my screen being shared.
Yeah, we've got a console, the overview.
Perfect. You'll see my screen. There we go. Perfect. So what I'm going to just work you through is just a quick overview of what it's about and how it works, right? So here we've got our AI Ops console with our situations and our services and our understanding of how things are working, right? So if I look at my media service, I can see here we've got we've had an upward trend of events coming in. There's a health score, going down. It's lower than 100%. So maybe I want to go have a look at it, understand that. Correlated with that service problem, I start seeing that there's a situation that's been identified on the right-hand side related to that media service. And that situation has been generated through the AI correlation of 16 kind of events that have come in. So clearly there's a link between the two. Now, just drilling into the service monitoring, you'll see some of the stuff that Madhav was talking about, right? We're talking about probable root cause, all those kind of AIs which have been applied already, and we're giving you some probability around, where we think the problem is within this outage or this specific service. But what becomes very apparent is if I click on the probability, I look at all the messages that are coming, right? Log analytics, data, Nagios data, CPU data, JavaScript data, Tomcat error data. And unless I'm an expert in every one of those systems, it can be quite confusing to understand how we got to the probability. It can also be difficult to understand what the actual problem is and where do I need to focus my time, right? So if I drill down into the situation and look at all the events that have actually come in, what the Helix GPT is able to do is to tell me how we actually got to the root cause and actually simplify it, put into simple language, right? So if I look at the top of my screen there, we've got a media service issue. We're telling you it's on host WebFE01. That's the root cause. And this is how the situation began. There became a Tomcat error, which was then followed by a series of warnings with JavaScript, a memory alert, so it was running out of memory, and so on. So as a potentially, a first line level of support, I'm able to actually make sense of all of this complex data that's coming to my into my console. Okay, Madhav, back over to you.
Thank you so much. So I think this briefly, right? It's a brief preview, but it shows you how it's easy to, continue with like a simple analysis, right? So let me switch back to my slides here. So you saw this is generally available today. And if you have not turned it on or you need to upgrade to this version, you can talk to your account managers, your customer success team to help you get this started. The next thing we are making generally available in the November release is a Helix powered resolution insight. So I talked about clustering the incidents. So I have a cluster of incidents that's already GA, that's available today in the proactive problem management. And now what we are doing is we are clustering further and reading the text in all those resolutions, like I said, and saying, in all your 2000 tickets today, there is a cluster of 300 Teams issues, out of which 80 were resolved by logging in and out on VPN, right? So that allows agent to now recommend an answer. And of course, the next step is creating a knowledge article out of it. And another option is if somebody is asking a question on search or a chat bot or live chat, we can search this insight to bring back an answer, right? If there is no existing knowledge article that says what's happening with your teams, right? I'm not able to send or receive messages on Teams. Oh, we have a resolution insight summary that Helix GPT has generated, and that can be shown to the user, right? So this is going to save a lot of time for people to research, review and send, right? So that's the whole point of large language models is they are able to analyze text at scale and make it easy for us to read. So I'll show this very clearly in my chatbot example later on, right? Another feature that is coming soon is it's a very simple feature, but it adds a lot of power, is summarizing a chat, a live chat, after you complete that chat, right? So, in this case, Mary is trying to print a document, but the printer is not recognized, right? So she reaches out to the help desk. She has a live chat, long back and forth. And instead of the agent having to summarize what that resolution was, Helix GPT generates that summary saying, after installing the new software, her problem was resolved, right? So this saves a lot of time for agents. Again, it also, as these resolution notes are more consistent, right? It helps us recognize clusters of issues that may be emerging, right? So this is very helpful. And you see the last bullet point there is client admins will be able to customize the GPT prompts. So this is also, and I'll show you how you'll do it, because this will allow you to say, well, I want a summary within 200 characters. I want the summary to have the name of the department, right? Like if there is something specific you need, right? Because it's all very tightly connected to the Helix platform, and I know what the user is, what location they are in, what their locale is, what their preferred language is. Anything you want in this, we can add to the prompt and have the large language model generate that for us, right? So let me go through a quick video here of our upcoming virtual agent experience. So Helix Virtual Agent will be switching over to Helix GPT. We currently support IBM Watson, and that will be supported for continuity purposes, right? But you will now have an option to switch the natural language processing to Helix GPT. So I'm going to run this video and let it talk for itself.
Using chatbots can sometimes be frustrating for users. The results often do not answer the specific questions or provide the requested information. The process for users to resolve their inquiry takes longer and impacts productivity and user satisfaction. Let's see how a Helix GPT-powered chatbot addresses these issues with targeted answers from referenced knowledge articles, such as how to clear a browser's cache. This was a broad question, thus there is information regarding several browser types returned along with the referenced knowledge article. Let's be a bit more specific with our question and add a browser type of Chrome. Notice how this question is answered with a targeted excerpt from the same referenced knowledge article. BMC Helix GPT enabled chatbots include controls that allow you to choose what topics can be discussed. In this example, the bot steers the conversation back to IT or HR-related topics. Now let's move on to natural language service request. In this scenario, we are going to request a new guest Wi-Fi access. The conversation starts as any bot conversation would, with me asking to set up a guest Wi-Fi. I've even included typos in my request. The bot reads my request and prompts me for more information, such as the number of accounts and the start date for the service. I am going to request 3 accounts for now. The bot realizes I've only entered information for the accounts and again prompts me for the date of the service. After entering my date, the bot then prompts me for confirmation. Instead of confirming, I conversationally ask for a total of 5 accounts. The bot is able to pick up on my request and asks me to confirm changing from 3 accounts to 5. After confirming that all of my changes are correct, the bot begins processing my request. But I just remembered I need this access for 2 weeks and interrupt the process. The bot does the computation and adds 2 weeks to the end date and continues processing the request. Again, I interrupt the process and ask it to add another account, not specifying a number, which the bot is able to figure out and adds 1 account to the total to make it 6 accounts. After confirming that this time I am finally sure, my request is processed. A non-GPT-powered bot would have kicked out long ago to a live agent with this type of conversation. Helix GPT-powered conversational search minimizes deployment effort for administrators for training the AI engine and for writing dialogues, as the GPT large language model understands the user and converses based on the natural language prompts. Thanks for watching.
So a couple of things in this video, right? I've been in the chatbot space for 7 years now. It's been really frustrating at times to train the chatbot and many of our clients are like, I have to write the dialogue, I have to say the greeting and the error messages, and all the branching has to be handled. And what if the user wants to switch from ordering a guest Wi-Fi to checking the last ticket status, right? Or they have a knowledge article, they want to give a feedback, right? Disambiguation. So all those nerdy technical problems all of us have been running into for chatbots. Large language models solve them very neatly, right? What you just saw in this demo, there is no training needed. That's the zero-shot model where you just write a prompt, right? And by the way, BMC will generate those prompts from you. So when you say, I want to set up Helix virtual agent for my digital workplace catalog, we will ask you to select the services that you want to import, and we will read their configuration and generate the prompt. So guest Wi-Fi needs a start date, end date, and so on. That prompt will be automatically generated for you. Okay, and then you can just quickly start testing, tuning it, of course, right? So you'll tune it to maybe you want to allow it to write poems about stars, right? So you'll add that or remove that, right? And that's part of the administrative experience. I'll show that in a moment. Now, the other thing, right? I'll show this momentarily. This question here, right? Precise answers. You saw that in the example of the browser cache, but look at this answer, right? Somebody just asked, can I ask maternity leave before birth? And there is a long knowledge article, right? This is the knowledge article. At the very bottom of this knowledge article, this is buried in, right? So let me switch over to my browser for a moment here, right? This is our digital workplace catalog. So if you see here, this is our upcoming feature. This is early access, going to be early access end of this month. So now I have, by the way, my recent searches. This is configurable. And this is the new like Bing chat or Google Bard like experience. When you ask a search bar, the search bar transforms to the chat bot, right? It, as you know, and again, I'll keep harping up on this, right? We know who the user is. I know it's Hannah. I know this is her locale, the language, her preferred, department, and so on. And I got this answer, right? This is what's our maternity leave policy. And I'm just for interest of time, I have it open here, right? This is the document. You can see it's very verbose. It's this is a lot to read. And so now Hannah says, well, hold on. Let me just see if this chatbot can give me a quicker answer, right? And if you see, the GPT does take a few more seconds to respond than a generic search, right? But the advantage for the end user and what people are asking for is, I'm fine, I'll wait 5 more seconds, but can you give me a more precise answer, right? Which is, yes, I can begin my maternity leave prior to the date of childbirth. So that part, right? This is the power that is now coming in to digital workplace. This is coming into the chatbot. Of course, it will be available on Teams as a channel, on Slack as a channel, right? In the future, we intend to make Helix GPT powered conversations available on IVR. That means on the phone calls, we will be able to handle these kind of questions through LLMs, right? So it's a very exciting time ahead for improving productivity, right? So some of these generic questions, right? We will answer them faster with more targeted answers, right? That's the goal of Helix GPT powered conversational experiences. Okay, let me go back to here to the PPT, right? So how will we do this, right? So we are launching a new Helix GPT manager, okay? This will in 4 steps, right? Step 1, you will select an application. So out of the box, BMC applications will have their prompts, right? So in this case, we have selected the ITSM app as an example, right? Step 2, you will configure some global prompts. Okay, so this is where you have the guardrails as an organization to say, look, always be empathetic, always be positive, don't generate any creative content, don't generate any sensitive or complicated topics, right? Don't get into the, outside the IT or HR domain, right? That's the domain we want the chatbot to work on, right? And very interestingly, you see at the bottom of that global prompt, we are giving you a token count, because that's important for you to know. The more tokens you send, the more it takes to process, right? And sometimes the more costly it is, right? It's slower and it's more costly. And 3, you select the skill. So in this case, you could have a knowledge answering skill, a guest Wi-Fi skill, a leave approval skill, right? That maps to your service catalog, right? That maps to the use cases you want the chatbot or the conversational capability to support. Or in live chat, there may be a summarization skill, right? And then on number 4, you pick your prompts and start editing them, right? So I'm not going into more detail because there's a lot to show in this, but I want to call one feature out is the model. So next to the prompt here on the screen, you see model. So Helix GPT will default to a BMC large language model, which will be running inside the Helix data center. So none of your data goes out, and we comply with the security and privacy norms that you already expect from Helix. But in certain cases, if you want to switch out and bring in an external GPT vendor, you want to connect to Azure OpenAI, for example, you will be able to do that, right? So you'll be able to go into the model, say, I want to use Azure, GPT 3.5, GPT 4.0, right? Or GPT 4.0 Turbo that's now came out, right? Give your own API key, and that's fine. That will also work. So that's very important. It's going to be very modular, right? And this way, right, you'll have the flexibility to choose what you want to do. Okay. So I think I just want to now kind of end here with kind of the benefits of Helix GPT, right? First of all, we are removing the typical risks of generative AI, right? I talked about the expert of your systems. We are basing all the answers on your knowledge articles, on your tickets, on your resolution insights, on your event summaries. So it's, the integrity of those results, right? The biases that open source models could have, that is minimized, right? And there are other data science things we are doing on the side to, control and baseline the answers. We talked about the role-based access, right? So you're inheriting all of that from Helix. So that's very powerful, and you don't have to build any of that, right? So versus if you go to Microsoft Copilot, for example, right? So, and then, well, how does Microsoft know what permissions Madhav has on the catalog, right? And so on. The third thing is it's purpose built, right? So we are tuning it for the IT and HR and other domains that we work on. But over time, it gets tuned on your knowledge articles, right? So as people give their thumbs up and thumbs down, that will be used to optimize the answers for your use cases, right? And it's going to give you the flexibility to bring your own models from other generative AI vendors, right? So I think that's all I have. The most important call to action here is, if you haven't already planned an upgrade to come to the latest cloud versions, the latest SaaS version, that will be the 23.3 release in December, January, February, right? Whatever works with you, talk to your account team so you can upgrade to the latest platform version. And everything on the generative pieces will start becoming available in releases throughout 2024, right? The early access launches end of this year, and it will be generally available more broadly, more features across all our applications. And we'll do more webinars with Samantha's help in January to tell you what's coming in and at what timeline. But I recommend, this is the biggest takeaway for you, is get that upgrade plan in place, right? So I think I can stop sharing here and we can switch over to the Q&A.
I'll tell you what, Des has done a brilliant job at answering all the questions. We've had one or two just come in. I think it's like this constant conveyor belt, which is wonderful to get all these questions. So I know the first question actually is probably one, Samo, that I can answer. I work in the digital support team. So we do look after BMC community. So I'm assuming what you're talking about is the BMC communities where you have product areas, to have one created for Helix GPT. At the moment, we only have a generic one called Helix. When I put a lot of my events in, including this one today, we put it into the Helix one because it can kind of fit in every product area. But I will take that offline and speak to the team because we do have some developers. I think it's a great idea. And I'm sure Madhav and Des, you would say thumbs up as well, because we're going to be creating more content. So hopefully that's the answer you want to hear.
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. Exactly. So there are multiple initiatives on the way to make different internal chatbots, external chatbots, right? So all of those are on the way. Yeah. There's another question from Andreas for, is Helix ChatOps in Microsoft Teams the same or a similar chatbot? So ChatOps is a separate product which allows you to create a channel of relevant team members and connect it to BMC Helix data sources. So if you have a major incident, you can create a war room on Microsoft Teams and everybody can see all those data and insights coming in. And by the way, there is going to be a Helix GPT feature in that where we intend to create a root cause analysis. After you had a 4-hour war room and you summarize the issue for, you found a root cause. Now use GPT to analyze it, right? And say, what went wrong here, for example? And the answer will be, well, the server went down because it was misconfigured. Why was it misconfigured? Because the documentation was out of date. Why was it out of date? Because we don't have the right processes, right? So now how do we fix it? Let's update our processes and make sure we update our documentation and give training every 3 months, 6 months, whatever the organization decided on. So that verbose 4-hour conversation can be summarized into a root cause analysis. So that will be ChatOps. Chatbot or virtual agent already supports Microsoft Teams. Only thing they're switching out is the natural language engine. So what you saw was the web channels. So the same conversational capability will be available on Microsoft Teams as well. There'll be no change to the channel. Okay. The next question is, so is the main data source Helix knowledge base? Well, the main data source is for knowledge answering in the first phase, yes. If you have frequently asked questions, like you saw that maternity leave or what's my browser type and so on, those are coming from Remedy Knowledge Management or Helix Knowledge Management. If you are asking a question about what happened to my laptop request, that's coming from your IT service history. If you're asking a question about your catalog, that will come from DWP, right? And so on. But in the future, we intend to connect to SharePoint, Jira, Confluence, and many other data sources. So that is another action item actually you can take, is to reach out and say, hey, our priority is SharePoint, and these are the document types we want to connect to, right? We have PDFs and PPTs or web pages. So let us know what you are looking for, what data sources you are looking to connect to, because that will help us prioritize and release support for them out of the box on Helix GPT. So in that Helix GPT manager screenshot you saw, there is another thing called search, right? There's a tab called search. I didn't touch upon it too much, but in search, we will add those options. So when we query based for maternity leave or resetting your password or any other thing, right? We can query multiple sources, right? So that will be available. Can Helix GPT integrate into a work business email account as well? Helix GPT is only for, for Helix users, which typically are licensed through your corporate account. So if you want to expand on what use case you're looking at, then we can answer it better. If you don't mind typing in another follow-up on that. How much impact it has on the infra sizing from Jagdish when it comes on premise implementation? Yeah, there will be additional GPUs needed for on-prem, right? And we will provide those specifications, but everything else should stay the same. So the Helix GPT service, right, is a new service that you will have to launch, and we'll provide the GPU sizing for that. Okay. There's a question from Pandi about converting each DWP catalog to Helix chatbot is manual effort, and most of the questions are not supported. Is there any automated? Exactly, yes. That's what I briefly touched upon. Today, there is an import wizard where you have to give the training data, right? And that's the few short training that IBM Watson needs. But with the large language model, there is no training needed. You just say, you are an intelligent virtual assistant that is going to help people with guest Wi-Fi. Here are the 3 fields you need to connect, right? Here are the business rules for those fields, like start date should be in the future, end date cannot be more than 6 months in advance, right? So whatever configurations you already have in digital workplace, we are going to pull that into the prompt and automatically generate those prompts for you. So Pandi, your effort will shift from training the chatbot to testing the automated prompts that we give and tuning them, right? So that will be the new world. Like all of us have to become prompt engineers, right? That's what it is. Okay. The next question from Claudio, is it possible to connect another chatbot to BMC Helix chatbot? That keeps coming up, but the problem is always authentication. So in the chatbot example you saw, the user has signed into digital workplace or they are signed into the Microsoft Teams. So I know it's Hannah, I know it's Des, right? Who's sending that message. I know the roles and the permissions they have, which services they can access, which knowledge articles they can access. Now, if I need to transfer it to another chatbot, how do they trust what I'm passing forth, right? So as when we have talked in detail with some other clients, security teams, that's where it has always failed is, okay, BMC can pass an email ID saying it is Des_Scanders, right? Who's asking this question. But will that third party bot trust that? And will the IT and the security teams trust that handover? Because there's always a risk in that kind of thing. So we haven't found a graceful design for it. So what you can do, Claudio, if you can maybe drop an email to us, tell us what kind of chatbots you're looking at, we can dive deeper into it for sure, right? Okay. Rahul's question is, if anybody is using virtual agent already, how seamless is it to switch to Helix GPT? Yeah, so what will happen is when you upgrade to the Helix GPT HVA, we will still have a default to IBM Watson. So nothing will break, it will just keep working. And at some point in your sandbox environment, you will say, cut over to Helix GPT as the natural language engine. When you choose that, we will walk you through the import wizard that I've been talking about. We will automatically generate the prompts for you, and you will start to test it and tune it, like I said. So in a few days of effort, hopefully, you have it where you want, push those changes through production, and you're ready to go. So it should be very, very easy. I mean, my goal is to make it as easy as possible, right? Simon says, we have a lot of branching workflows. Simple one may ask a question at the start, collect basic info, and then branch, ask specific questions for that issue type. Yeah. So GPT does very well with that branching. You just saw it, right? Where in the example we have, it can, it can allow people to digress into, oh, wait a minute, add more accounts, or wait a minute, I have another question. So in the prompts, it's up to you. If you say allow people to switch out, right? There is a lang chain. That's a popular chaining. I talked about chaining. So there's a chaining of prompts. So the guest Wi-Fi prompt can hand over to the knowledge answering prompt, right? And then come back to the guest Wi-Fi prompt. So you can absolutely chain and switch between the different workflows, right? So that's working. That's working not bad at all. The next question from Samo is, when will Helix GPT be available for on-prem Helix installation? So we expect that maybe Q1, Q2 next year, right? But Samo, please let us know what clients you're looking for, and we'll provide you more exact details looking at your environment. Okay. Helix GPT capable to use BMC docs? Yes, absolutely. So that is another internal project in flight, is to deploy Helix GPT as the conversational chatbot on docs.bmc.com. I think that's what you're saying. So instead of searching on docs, you say, how do I use the import wizard on HVA? And yeah, it will give you an answer. Yeah, that's absolutely our goal. Right. Simon says, we also use selecting from tables. Table field is tricky for chatbots, but maybe we can solve it. Right now, table is not supported in chatbot today also, right? But if you have devices to choose as a drop down, maybe it can work. Like drop downs can work. Lists fields can work easily. Right? Radio buttons, list fields, all those work. So Simon, I don't mind diving into that with you. If you can reach out, please. We can schedule a call on that. Okay. I saw a question about OpenAI. Sorry.
The last question was what is the underlying models that we're using within Helix GPT today?
Mm-hmm. So thank you. The default engine is a Helix GPT BMC tuned model, which is based off of Meta's Llama 2 open source large language model. And we are just going to kind of tune that and have a specific version or specific instance of it running in your environment, so it doesn't leak any data outside your environment, right? So that's the biggest point. And then if you want to say, I don't want to do that, I want live chat summarization to call an open AI API, I will give the account ID and API key. Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the important thing there, Madhav, is that we're not spilling data out onto the wider internet, right? Unless you absolutely choose to use OpenAI or Azure AI, and the prompts by themselves are going to contain the way it responds, right? It's going to be enterprise-only data versus using the wider knowledge. So you can ask it to create a Wi-Fi request, but you may disable the ability for it to answer how to make a pizza, right? Because that might not be relevant for the customer as well.
Yeah, and actually, there's a very good point that we are building a feature based on feedback from clients where, if you want, you can say, for iPhone queries, go to apple.com and find an answer, for example, right? Because you will not maintain answers on how to reset Face ID, right? That's not an enterprise knowledge, right? But you still want people to get an answer on that. You can test it, how it's working in your environment, and enable or disable it. So that will be a switch available, right? There's another question that has come in. Do you support images, videos, voice ingestion as part of knowledge generation? Yes, we have done some data science work where, in fact, you can point to a video and these AI models are able to read the, I should not say read, they are able to parse that voice, the voice transcript, and then find an answer from it. But right now, the problem we have is, this is a classical knowledge articles problem, right? Who wants to write knowledge articles? Like, nobody will put up their hand, right? None of us want to write knowledge articles. So knowledge articles don't have images sometimes, right? That's one. Two, the current state of the art models are text in and text out, right? The multimodal engines are still just starting, and the multimodal engines are still, okay, you still instruct in text, it can generate text or an image. Can it take an input of images? No, not at this time. So as soon as those images can be ingested, yes, we'll make it available, right? So that's not a problem from our side. But today it's just a technology limitation that you cannot send images as your input. You can only send the text as an input. Okay. There's a question. Do you support dynamic search configuration? Yes, it is a retrieval augmented generation. That means we search for relevant maternity leave knowledge articles, fetch those and give that to the GPT and say, here are the top 3 knowledge articles, summarize the answer for the user, which you saw it did beautifully, right? It found the top knowledge article, kept it as a reference link, and found the right paragraph to give to the end user. So yeah, it is a retrieval augmented generation approach. And today it's off Remedy knowledge management, Helix knowledge management, your ticket sources. In the future, we will support SharePoint and other sources.
there was a question that popped up now, which has come up a few times, which is around we support RKM and HKM today. What about the likes of SharePoint or Confluence or even an intranet site that they've got? Can we leverage that as well?
Yeah, that's on the roadmap, right? So that's about 6 months away.
Cool. Good answer. Thank you.
Okay. And by the way, so we all like to connect to SharePoint. When we go to our SharePoint administrators and we say, I want this third party, BMC, to get root access to my SharePoint to read all the SharePoint, you'll have a fun time with that conversation, right? So IT security teams are loath to give admin root access to read the SharePoint because we have to crawl it, right? And it's not easy. So there are some methods we are looking at that Microsoft is providing so that we can have permissioned access. So when I run the query, I run it as des and I don't run it as a root admin user. So if that works out, then we will have a plausible path that security teams will approve to allow us to scroll SharePoint and get the answers. There was some question about OpenAI I saw cropped up.
That was related to the models. So the question was more around because we're not using because by default we're not using OpenAI. What models are we using? And we'll answer that question.
Oh yeah, you answered it perfectly. Yeah, thank you. Sorry. So I know there are some people who had put up their hands, so maybe we want to request them to speak up. Samantha?
So yeah, a lot of the questions actually got answered, which is great news. So I would like to open it up if anyone does have any additional questions or responses to Madhav and Des's responses to your questions. Feel free to unmute yourself. You have the option to do that, or put some more questions in. But obviously what I'm seeing is this is a really interesting topic for everyone. And I know people are apologizing for asking so many questions. Please don't. That's what we're here for. So yeah, I'll open up the floor. Does anyone want to ask any questions? Feel free to ask us live.
Okay, so there's while you're waiting for that, there's a question from Timothy that there's a lot of maybes and different answers. What benefit do you have using your RAG and fine tuning over your own solutions? I mean, you could absolutely explore your own, Azure OpenAI implementation and feed your knowledge articles to it and generate an answer. But like I said, the problem is the front end, right? Where is it going to be hosted? If it is hosted on your digital workplace portal, right? That's your employee portal that people are signing in and asking questions. We will connect automatically to, when you deploy Helix GPT, that digital workplace experience you just saw, that's built in, right? That is inheriting the authentication, the user permissions, the knowledge articles, everything is done for you. So, but if you want to have more control and spend more effort and money on that is absolutely a viable approach. Right? Our aim is to make it easy for you, right? Okay. There's another comment on if you roll out Helix GPT to your own community site, can you share what you learn? Yeah, absolutely. This will be part of our documentation, best practices, right? There are a few customers who are part of the early access program. Des actually manages it for us globally. So that's our plan, is to, through December, January, February, right, we are going to run more pilots with our early access customers. And then whatever we learn is all going to be documented and made available. And for sure, Samantha is going to make us do more webinars, right? So.
Absolutely. Well,
yeah, so
we do ask customers.
Yeah, so the next question from Leon, can Helix GPT use resources like data warehouse or data lake? So in the very first slide, right, which what I showed, that we refer to your topology, your tickets, your incidents, the Helix is the data lake, right? The Helix cloud, which is hosting all your data, that's the data lake we are referring to. So if you have more specific examples of what data lake you are looking at, I mean, technically speaking, SharePoint is a data lake, right? Because it's got all your data in it. Okay, are you using Helix GPT internally at BMC today? Yes, we are using it for the AI ops piece that we have shown. That's generally available. And our teams are furiously using the Helix GPT chatbots, right, for different use cases that we talked about, the docs use case, the communities use case. There's another use case around sales, right? Like, why can't our sales team ask questions with answers, right? So everything is up for development right now. Will you be able to keep the vector DB separate for RAG architecture in case you want to use it for other systems? Could you tell me what other systems would you want to? Are you thinking some third system will call the vector database? Is that the question, please?
Don't know if you want to come off mute. It's
Okay.
anonymous, so if you don't, feel free to just put an additional.
Yes, that's correct. I haven't discussed that with the team. If you don't mind dropping us an email on this, then we can follow up and get an answer to you. I haven't heard this requirement from others yet. But I mean, it's a modular design. And mostly, theoretically, we could make it happen. Anybody wants to come off mute or keep sending in text questions, please?
They're very shy today.
Seems like they're all millennials. They just want to text us.
Actually, Andreas is normally someone that likes to come off mute. I don't know, Andreas, if we answered your question earlier. I think you've probably been on nearly 100 of the webinars I've set up. So I don't know if you've got any questions. Normally you have them.
I can speak. I guess he answered my question. Maybe a small follow-up. So if I understand correctly, with the chat ops for Teams, there's like the option that you can add a chatbot, but it's like not mandatory, if I understand correctly.
So chat ops has no chat bot in it. It's confusingly named, I apologize, but chat ops is just the operation team creating a chat room for themselves. Today, there is no GPT or AI dropping into that chat. It's only humans interacting with the data coming in from the Helix incidents, right? Saying, here is a major incident, here's an update on it, Madhav has updated it, Des has commented on it, and so on. So that is only a non-AI chat ops. What we intend to bring past, what we intend to do is.
So what's the name then what's the name of adding a chatbot to MS Teams? I mean, there must be,
that is Helix Virtual Agent or Chatbot. 3 years ago, the name was Chatbot, and we changed it to Helix Virtual Agent.
So you can select multiple, so you can, and then it's like the same chatbot in DWP, it's the same chatbot in Teams and wherever else. Okay.
Yes. So the goal is that same chatbot, which like Pandi asked that question, right? Like, man, it's an effort to set up, right? So what we're saying is, well, we make it easy for you to set up, right? It'll be it'll be 0-shot training. On top of that, we will automatically import your service catalog. On top of it, by the way, it works in multiple languages. There's no need of adding a translation layer like Google Translation or Azure Translation like we use today. These GPT models understand most of the common languages and they do reasonably well in our testing so far. We would appreciate your help in testing that out. But it looks to be doing good. Yeah. So
sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Muther, I apologize if I'm pronouncing it wrong.
Muther
has a question.
Yes, hello. Thanks for the session so far. It's been really good. I've been the pesky anonymous asking the questions. Apologies. So the main question I have now, it's interesting because you're combining the knowledge and neural generation and kind of bringing everything into that one vector DB under your RAG. What's going to happen with ComAround and how does it fit in the picture with all of this?
So ComAround is the knowledge portal, which has the KCS compliant lifecycle, right? So you will still have that. You still need a portal where admins can go in and they can publish an article, right? They can edit an article, they can approve an article. So you still need some interface, right? Where the knowledge lifecycle is managed properly. And then that feeds into these modern, generative AI presentation. So yes, I will find the right snippet from that long article, but somebody has to write that long article, right? Somebody has to see that it complies with the knowledge norms. It is written in the right language. It has the right tags on it. It has the right, because if I don't know the tags or the groups it's supposed to be accessible to, right? How do I filter for it, right? So we will still use all those filtering capabilities from HKM, right? We will still use all the authoring capabilities. And then when we are generating the knowledge articles in the future, they will still flow into the lifecycle management for Madhav to approve, saying, hey, Helix GPT thinks we should add a knowledge article about teams. That, so okay, I review it and I say approve. But another use case we are thinking of on Helix knowledge management is to even be a knowledge coach, right? So if a company has a certain norm of knowledge articles, there are use cases like review the existing knowledge articles and say, this knowledge article is too short, or this knowledge article is not in bullet points, or is it's got long paragraphs and it should be broken down into numbered steps, right? So yeah, we can do a lot of those things to review knowledge articles and update them with Helix GPT.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we got another question from Pandy. Do you want to unmute yourself, Pandy?
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. So I have questions for chatbot design perspective. So for our customer environments, it's multi-tenancy setup configurations. We have a different category of users, like stores, it's one of the category of user, and different like infrastructure support team, it's a separate team, and we have another customer, like different company of people. So currently that we are using one triage bot, which we are keeping one design, and we are configuring all the common of the buttons and options in the triage bot. But what we are looking for, we want to create a separate bot, and that bot should access based on the user category. For example, if Boots user is logged into DWP, that the Boots store users bot should accessible. And the same way, other infra support team, if they are logged in to DWP, and it should be accessible. It should be accessible only for the infra support bot. But
I see where
in current world, like
Yeah.
it's have only one virtual agent options,
Yes.
and that is connected with triage bot. So that's a challenge that we are facing. Yeah.
I see what you're saying. So on the search bar, when Madhav launches the search bar, it's a different chatbot behind it. And when, Pandi launches, it's a different chatbot behind it. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes,
So
that we want that kind of configurations. Yes.
Okay. If you don't mind, Pandi, can you just put an idea around this on our community portal? And what I'll do is I'll follow up with our digital workplace team, because this ultimately it's more of a, it's not of a GPT design versus it's more of a like directing the user based on their, right? Like it's more of a pipeline or data flow design. Yeah. So we can take it up, right? Like I don't think any technical reason not to do it, but like we'll just figure out a design how to put it in.
Right.
So if you put it in as an idea, that just helps the product management team add it to their backlog, and we keep an eye on it, right? Yeah, and it becomes an action item for us then.
Yeah, definitely we'll raise it. Thank you so much.
And Pandy, if you send me the idea, I'll put it onto the Q&A when we put it into a blog post, so others can forward it up as well, because obviously we have a voting process. So if you want to share that with me, you should have my email address when you signed up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and on communities, there is a, just as an alert to everybody, right? There is a topic or category called Helix Virtual Agent. If you tag that, I get informed by email immediately, so I can immediately update it. So, sometimes if you tag ITSM, then I don't get informed, right? Like it goes to some other product manager and they look at it and they're like, it's a chatbot thing, like Madhav, but Madhav never knows. So just tag Helix Virtual Agent and I'll be informed about it. Okay, there's a very good question about the pricing model, right? Yeah, so pricing, our current direction is if you are a Helix virtual agent customer already, you will get this, because you're just transitioning from one natural engine to another. If you are a digital workplace customer who doesn't have HVA and so on, yes, it will be part of the service management advanced SKU. That's the direction. So there is, as we were talking about on-prem, right? You need more servers for this. This is more costly, right? So there is an additional cost and there's an additional benefit, huge benefits out of it. So there will be pricing action that will be communicated publicly by January, hopefully January 2024. And your teams will share that information with you and we'll work with you to make it available. Okay.
So, Madhav, I think we're close to the hour now. We had one more hand raised, which was from Timothy. If we can take that as a last question, and if anybody else does have any other follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to me. I can get you in contact with Des and Madhav. And also there was a couple of questions around, is this going to be shared? Yes, the recording will. We will also capture all the questions that have come through from today. Pandy's idea that will get raised, I will share that on the email thank you that will go out so you can all vote it up, and I'll also put it into the blog post. And if there's any other topics or interests that you have in specific areas, if you want to fill in the survey, it's a very quick collectric survey you fill in. Let me know and I'll be reviewing that at some point with the product team. And like Madhav said, that we will be looking at putting more sessions on. We're pretty booked up now until early December, and then we know people don't want to watch webinars, so we'll be starting off the campaigns again in January. So if you've got any thoughts and ideas, please share them with me and fill in the survey. And then Tim, we'll just take your question to close us out. So if you want to come off mute.
Yeah, if you hear me.
Yep.
Yes,
We do. Hello.
Yeah, no, I had a question because we're talking about a modular design for the different type of chatbots. If we want to use something like ChatGPT or OpenAI, will we see the same for vector databases? Because a lot is happening when it comes to vector databases. There's a lot of different ones out there, and I'm thinking if I, for example, want to use the Neo4j and their vector database in the future, will I have those type of options, or am I stuck with this is the one that we want to use?
Yeah, at this point, honestly, I have not discussed that with the architects at all to have a choice of vector databases. So thank you for bringing that up, Timothy. Again, if you can just send us a note saying here are the one or two that you would be interested in, we can look at it, and I'll come back to you, right? But obviously to begin with, we just want to launch with the minimum distractions, get it live, get it available to you. And then if we see performance benefits from that modular choice or another engine, yeah, we'll switch over to it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Neo4j, it will help some, or the idea is that it'll help some with hallucinations and things like that. So it has some benefits when it comes to that knowledge articles. So
okay, thank you.
Yeah,
we'll dig into it and come back to you.
Cool.
Okay, thank you, Tim, and thank you for everyone's questions. I apologise if we didn't get round to everyone, but we will, as we said, be making sure we get some more sessions in. I will share the content. I need to now work with Des and Madhav to get all the questions answered with details that we can share with you on the community page. So it may not be today, but maybe tomorrow that we'll get this out, and I'll send an email to everyone. And finally, thank you, Des and Madhav, for your presenting today. I know it's been useful for our attendees, and thank you for everyone joining, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.